Today we're going to study the reflexive verbs, and we usually use the reflexive verbs to talk about our daily routine, acerca de nuestra rutina diaria. ¿Cuál es tu rutina diaria? Levantarse, acostarse, bañarse, vestirse, afeitarse, cepillarse los dientes. Ok, yo me levanto, yo me acuesto, tú te bañas, tú te cepillas los dientes, ella se viste, él se afeita. Nosotros o nosotras nos lavamos las manos. Vosotros os ducháis. Ellas se maquillan. How do we conjugate reflexive verbs? Let's take a verb like dormirse. Yo me duermo, tú te duermes, él o ella se duerme, nosotros nos dormimos, vosotros os dormís, ellos o ellas, ustedes se duermen. Now, what is the difference between the conjugation of a reflexive verb and a non-reflexive verb? Well, the reflexive verbs are always accompanied by a reflexive pronoun like me, te, se, nos, os, and so on. Okay, and remember that the reflexive pronoun has to agree with the subject of the verb. If it's yo, it's going to be me. If it's tú, it's going to be te. If it's él o ella, it's going to be se. If it's nosotros, it's going to be nos. Now, remember also that the reflexive pronoun for the singular and the plural of the third person, that is él o ella, ustedes, is going to be the same. It doesn't matter that there's a difference in number. Despertarse, ok, despertarse en sin se. Por la mañana me despierto. Despertar. Yo despierto a mi compañero de cuarto. Levantarse. Después yo me levanto. Levantar. Mi mejor amiga levanta pesas. Bañarse. Luego me baño. Bañar. Siempre baño a mi perro. Okay, ¿cuáles son los verbos reflexivos? Why do we call these verbs reflexives? It's not only the way we conjugate them, it's also the fact that the subject of the verb does and receives the action of the verb. El sujeto hace y recibe la acción del verbo. And they generally end in se. Let's think about levantarse. Okay, who is doing the action of waking up here? Of levantarse, ella. Who is waking up? Ella. So this is a reflexive verb. Yo despierto a mi compañero de cuarto. Now, who is doing the action of waking up? Yo. Who's being woken up? Mi compañero de cuarto, a different person. So this is not a reflexive verb. This is a non-reflexive verb. Después, yo me levanto. Who is doing the action of getting up? Okay, yo. Who is getting up? Yo también. So this is a reflexive verb. Mi mejor amiga levanta pesas. So who is doing the action of lifting? Mi mejor amiga. What is being lifted? Las pesas, the weights, okay? Some verbs can function both as reflexive verbs and also as non-reflexive. And you know the difference because the verbs that are functioning as reflexive end in se. But remember that there are differences in the meaning. Sometimes there's subtle differences. Sometimes the meaning, the differences in meaning are more clear. But yes, there's a difference. When do we use a reflexive verb? Cuando usamos los verbos reflexivos. Well, we use them to describe our daily routine, nuestra rutina diaria, and to express emotions, para expresar emociones. And these are some of the verbs that express emotions. Alegrarse, divertirse, enamorarse, enojarse, and so on. Enojarse. Yo me enojo. Okay. Alegrarse. Tú te alegras. Ponerse triste. Ella se pone triste. With ponerse and sentirse, remember, if they're accompanied by an adjective of emotion, they're going to express emotion. Me siento feliz. Me pongo nervioso. Ponerse, sentirse, and an adjective of emotion. Divertirse. Nosotros nos divertimos. Enamorarse. Ellos se enamoran. Enfermarse. Vosotros os enfermáis. Now, what about the infinitive of reflexive verbs? Well, when we have two verbs together and only one subject, remember that the second verb is left in the infinitive form. Well, when that second verb is actually a reflexive verb too, we're going to attach the reflexive pronoun to the end of the second verb. And remember that the reflexive pronoun has to be the appropriate reflexive pronoun it reflects the subject of the verb. Let's look at some examples. Yo tengo que maquillarme. Why maquillarme? Okay, because we're talking about yo. Tú vas a bañarte. Why we use te? Because we're talking about tú. Ella tiene que vestirse de azul. Why se? Because we're talking about ella. Nosotros queremos divertirnos mucho. Why nos? Because we're talking about nosotros. Ellos van a ducharse en la mañana. Why se? Because we're talking about ellos. Now, what happens when we have a sentence that have two verbs and one subject? Well, we can write it in two different ways. We can say, queremos divertirnos mucho. We can attach the reflexive pronoun at the end of the second verb, the one in the infinitive. Or we can write the pronoun before the first verb, the one that is conjugated. And the meaning is the same. What about the reciprocal constructions? Las construcciones recíprocas, como abrazarse, mirarse, besarse. Okay, these usually refer to actions that involve more than one person, two or more people, okay? So when we have the plural of reflexive pronouns like nos, os, and se, they can be used to express reciprocal actions between two or more people. In the English, we usually use the phrases each other and one another. In Spanish, they are not needed, they're implied. Nos queremos mucho. We love each other a lot. Los novios se ven todos los días. The sweethearts see one another every day. So if we have a sentence in Spanish using reciprocal constructions, nos abrazamos los unos a los otros. We don't need los unos a los otros. We can just say nos abrazamos. Okay? Se quieren el uno al otro. Again, we don't need el uno al otro. Okay, we can just say se quieren. Javier Bardem y Penélope Cruz se miran. Okay? And remember, these are reciprocal because there are more than one persons involved in the action. Javier is looking at Penélope and Penélope is looking at Javier. This is a reciprocal action. Preguntas. If you have any questions, remember you can always post them in the e-classroom.